really happy to see that. And the tornado threat will continue to diminish as these storms move into New London County. We were actually talking about this before. Since 1950, there have only been 2 reports of a tornado ever in New London County. It's just hard to do with the wind coming in off the water, and the water temperature is in the 40s right now.
And
but,
Ryan,
yeah, what do you got?
One thing to mention, Metro North down in New Haven, commuter rail suspended. I know there's a lot of commuters at this time, so it is suspended as of now.
I'm sure you get Metro North on the New Haven line from New Haven all the way down toward Greenwich and Cos Cob, and you're talking about lots of trees coming down along the New Haven line, and so no surprise there. So that's going to be a big problem, and I imagine Amtrak is probably going to have problems too on the Northeast corridor. So this line of thunderstorms likely is actually the most significant in the state in terms of damaging winds, and this is moving into East Haddam. 532, so basically there right now. It's heading over the Swing Bridge, heading over the Connecticut River. Mount Parnassus at 536, Lyme at 539, Salem at 544, Montville 551, heading over toward Ledyard around 6 o'clock, and then out toward Preston. This is obviously a line of thunderstorms that is severe, producing damaging winds, lots of lightning, and heavy rain. So this is the one area that we are concerned with for some damaging winds as it moves to the east. We'll take a closer look, and one of the things we look for is what we call a bow echo, and that's where the rain basically sort of bulges out from the rest of the storm. And why does that happen? Well, the wind just pushes it. I mean, you think of strong winds pushing water and rain drops and even hailstones away from the storm. And so you get sort of a little bowing segment. And that's exactly what we have now along Route 9 and along the Connecticut River north of Deep River. So East Haddam up toward Moodus, Route 82, there's the Swing Bridge, there's the Goodspeed Opera House. That's where things are looking pretty nasty. Back over toward Higganum as well. We've got the potential for some strong winds, although I do think that the wind threat is going to diminish as these storms move into a more stable air mass. It's going to be tough for these storms to continue to sort of hold their own as they move toward eastern Connecticut, where things are much more stable. And Josh, look at the hail core that just shot up on the Windham County storm. Let's take a closer look at that. So the severe weather threat, again, moving through very rapidly right now. We're probably about 40 minutes away from it to being all over. But we've got a severe storm here, no question about it. We need a severe thunderstorm warning. I'm sure it will be issued shortly. Putnam, Killingly, Warrigan, over into Hampton. But I do see signs here that things are starting to perk up a little bit in Windham County. And so we're talking about the potential for some strong damaging winds, and we can actually send the radar over into velocity mode. And there we go. And you can see in Eastford, right along 244, that's an area where you'd have to be concerned with.
And I'm clocking them at about 60 miles per hour, so 60 in the inbound.
Yeah, so you got these light blues are about 50 knots, so it's about 60 miles an hour.
And there's your warning,
in
Ryan.
Eastford. So there we go. We got the warning. No surprise there. Right along 244 and Route 44, heading from Phoenixville and Ashford. Then eventually you're going to get up toward Pomfret. You've got the potential here for some strong damaging winds. Same story in Hampton along Route 6. So this line of thunderstorms, as it moves out toward the Rhode Island border, could be producing some damage. So that's one area we're going to be watching closely here in Windham County. So this is really, I think this is probably the last line of thunderstorms that's going to do some damage here in Connecticut. And I don't see that warning showing up on our map yet, but we do have a severe thunderstorm warning that has just been issued now for portions of Windham County. So there's this line of thunderstorms again, just to the west of Putnam along 44. That's where the worst of this storm is coming through right now. So I'm going to zoom things out. We're going to take a little radar loop here and show you what's going on with these line of thunderstorms. You've got heavy rain back through portions of western Connecticut, still raining very hard around Torrington, raining hard around Waterbury, raining hard down toward New Haven. But it's the leading edge where the weather's the worst, where you've got the potential for damaging winds and you have the potential for some small hail as well. Could see some, let's say, dime to nickel-sized hail up through Windham County. And we're going to stop this and take a look. We'll start in the southern line, as part of this line, and then sort of move to the north. So I'm going to start in East Haddam, where the weather is not great. That is for sure. You're looking at a pretty nasty line of thunderstorms here in East Haddam. You can see the storms moving on through. We're going to track this for you, this line in East Haddam, moving to the east out toward Norwich. Expect some gusty winds in Lyme and Salem in the next 10 minutes or so. Montville at 551, Norwich at 556, Ledyard 558, Old Mystic at 603, and North Stonington at 607. That's one line of thunderstorms there. You've got another line up to the north that's producing some damaging wind and maybe even some small hail heading from Willimantic, and especially just north of Willimantic. It looks like that's where the worst of the weather is, up through portions of Windham County. We'll take a closer look here, and there you can see this line stretching from about it looks like the Thompson-Woodstock line down toward Pomfret. got the potential here for some strong damaging winds. Josh, standing by with more. Josh, what do you have?
Yeah, Ryan, just getting some more impressive photos into the NBC Connecticut Social Media Center. So let's take a look at some of these. We can take these full screen here. Woodbury, this is from Ryan Fitzsimmons, and you can see several trees down. I mean, this isn't just one dead tree that came down. This is an indication that there were some very, very strong winds well in excess of 60 miles per hour with this system, and it took down several trees in the Woodbury area. Same story out near New Milford, and this is a scary situation ongoing right now in New Milford. And Debbie reporting a car was crushed. She's saying it was a tornado. We have no confirmation yet that there was a tornado. However, radar does indicate that there was the possibility for a tornado. A lot of signs there that there was a tornado in the area. However, the National Weather Service will get out there tomorrow. They'll survey the situation and let us know if it actually was indeed a tornado. She says everything is closed. Check out this wall cloud image from East River from Madison. It was taken at 5:23, and it's just an indication of just how big this storm system was. We also have Mike Heideck. He says mom's house in Derby, possible tornado. Oxford continuous live team coverage obviously going on here, but take a look at this. All of these trees down in the area on the shed, power lines it looks like are mixed in there. So multiple trees down, and just some impressive images here. Connie, she sent in a bunch of photos. It only shows one of them, but a lot of damage also in Meriden from this storm system. So if you have any images you want to send in, you can tweet at us using the hashtag NBCCT. You can also email us, share it at NBCConnecticut.com. And Ryan, where would you say the strongest part of the storm system is at this juncture?
Right now, I'm tracking it's in Pomfret, and notice this sort of S shape, Josh. Yeah. That's where I'm looking at a little bit of rotation that looks like it may be trying to fire back up here in Pomfret. So let's take a look. This is Route 44. 44 does that hard left turn in Pomfret. There's 97. Definitely looks to me that we may be trying to get a little bit of rotation here along with a damaging wind signature. So a closer look here. There you go. Murdoch Road in Pomfret. This is not too far from Putnam, but this is right now just to the southwest of Pomfret. And this is telling me we've got the potential for some pretty nasty winds here just south of 244. And there is a weak little rotational signature showing up as well. So that's something we're going to have to watch, especially as the storm heads towards the Quinnebog River out toward Putnam and 395. So this is what I'm concerned with now. The storms.
Bit. I mean, if you switch on over to reflectivity, you can see that line kind of bowing out, and you can see it definitely definitely indicates some stronger winds with this system.
Oh yeah, for sure. So. And you've got that little inflow notch, just like we talked about before. So what happens is with these things, you get winds that sort of get sucked into the storm in what we call an inflow notch. And so the winds are coming in from the southeast, heading toward the west, and then on the backside you get sort of a rotational signature. You get the winds that sort of wrap around, and sometimes you can get a quick little spin up over with these storms they move through. So Pomfret is the next area I'm watching. I mean, just stay with us, folks. We don't have much longer to go. These things are almost in Rhode Island, and they're going to be moving east quickly. So we've got another, let's say, 10 minutes for the storm in Windham County. But I'm going to go back to the wind signature here. And, yeah, Josh, I mean, I definitely do see some strong winds signature here. I've got, let's see.
And I mean,
I've got about 50 something knots gate to gate.
70 miles per hour is what I just pegged on the
right here. So 44 in Pomfret right now. You need to be in a safe spot. This one is definitely showing me some signs of concern here with some strong winds heading now. It's right on 44, heading over toward Putnam. May scrape the northern part of Killingly, but
there is no warning on this system right now.
Yeah, there should be. So this is 44. This is 97 in Pomfret. We've got a strong wind signature here. So at the very least, we're likely taking down some trees and power lines. At the worst, you could see a quick little spin up here, quick little rotation. But as we were talking about with the storms in Oxford before, doesn't really matter which way the winds are blowing. If they're enough to take down trees around your house, doesn't matter if it's a tornado or straight line winds. You can see here still, there's your damaging wind signature, Tyrone Road, just to the south of 44, to the northwest of River Road. You've got a strong wind signature coming in, and this is not like the signatures we saw in Oxford or Southbury that were really concerning to us, but this notch does concern me, and you can see with these storms occasionally you get a really quick spin up.
And that's where you get the inflow, so you get all this motion into the storm. That really helps to amp it up and help intensify it a little bit. So, you know, we'll probably see a warning with this storm any second now.
And you know, and just like anything else, you know, this is the storm. You've got the potential for some hail up here to the north, up toward Putnam, and then Pomfret, right where you have this little notch. You've got the potential for some strong winds coming on through with this storm. And winds here could be, you know, wouldn't be surprised if we were looking at some winds that were gusting up and over, maybe 50 miles an hour. So you can get some pretty good winds, and winds strong enough to take down some trees and power lines. This is heading right toward 395 right now, over toward Route 12 in Putnam. And there you can see another update here. Thompson, Putnam, Killingly in eastern Connecticut, really getting clobbered right now by this storm.
And Ryan, one other storm just to the south down in Hampton, moving into Brooklyn. Same county, also, you know, pretty good damaging wind signature with that, and there's no warning on that one.
You almost have two of them, Josh. One on Route 6 in Danielson and another up toward Putnam for sure.
And we just got another update on this one, and you know, it does look like it's picking up once again. We can get a little bit of a query here, and we're picking up basically the winds moving from the radar at 57 miles per hour. So, you know, winds definitely possible in excess of 60 miles per hour right now. So that's definitely something to be concerned with. And, you know, Ryan, it doesn't look like this system right now is, you know, decreasing in intensity at all.
Yeah, no, doesn't look like it. So if you're in Windham County, if you're in Putnam, if you're in Killingly, if you're in Thompson, you need to be on the lookout for this storm. Let it pass. It's going to pass in about 5 minutes. These things are flying, moving at about 60 miles an hour. So this one's going to be in Rhode Island shortly. And then still down to the south, out toward New London County, I have a feeling the winds are going to begin to get a little bit more elevated in nature. So it's going to be a little harder to mix some of these winds down to the ground. But you could be looking along the Route 2 corridor, heading out out of Colchester, the southern part of Lebanon, over toward Baltic right now, along Route 2, Basra, excuse me, not Baltic, my bad. I got my B-towns around Norwich confused. Franklin, Basra, and then back on Route 2 toward Colchester. Don't be surprised to see some pretty strong winds here as well. So we're going to zoom things out. Let's get a storm track on this and track these storms as they head out into Rhode Island. We're excited for them to get the heck out of here. But the line of storms with the potential for some damaging winds stretching now from about Old Lyme up north over toward Lebanon. So let's take a closer look here and see what we've got. There's the line of thunderstorms as it stretches from the Sound up toward Lebanon and heading to the east. We're talking about Yantic getting into the action at 5:45, Montville at 5:47. Expect some strong gusty winds as that storm moves in. Lisbon at 5:50, Norwich at 5:50, Waterford at 5:52, New London 5:54. Groton at 5:56, Pequannock Bridge at 5:59, Old Mystic at 6:01, Mystic at 6:02, North Stonington at 6:04, and Stonington at 6:06. So this is the line of thunderstorms to the south we're watching, still Killingly. You're getting a pretty good thunderstorm right now as they move on through, and there's that line moving to the east out toward Rhode Island. Josh, what do you have?
Ryan, I'm just keeping my eye on the storm out near Salem and Colchester, right along Route 11. Kind of tough to look at it from the radar down in Upton, New York, Long Island, New York. So I switched it on over. We're looking at it from the Boston radar here. And I want to take a closer look here. You see that kind of pink shading there? Well, that's an indication that there's some possible hail with this storm. And one other thing I want to switch over and show you is the velocity with this system. You see this kind of bright blue right here? I'll circle it. Show you my artistic ability right here. And you can see this bright blue color right here. And that's indicating also some strong winds. Of course, that's at about 7,000 to 8,000 feet up in the air, but, you know, winds in excess of 58 miles per hour, which is showing us that this system out near Colchester along Route 11 down towards Salem, moving into Basra and Lebanon, also has the possibility of producing damaging wind gusts. We'll zoom on out and show you the wider perspective and show you off to the west. There really isn't much, but a lot of heavy rain. The bulk of the system now into areas of eastern Connecticut along the 395 corridor from Killingly down to Windham, down towards Basra, and then down towards the I-95 corridor. But I do want to take a closer look here, right up near Killingly, into the Attawagan section of Killingly, and especially up towards Putnam. That's where we're seeing, you see this pink and magenta shading up here? Well, that's where we're possibly seeing a little bit of hail, possible quarter-sized hail. That's 1 inch in diameter, and that's enough to do a little bit of damage out there. And
Josh, we're just getting some more reports from the storms that were moving through. Earlier, we've got 5 trees down in Lynn's Yard in Wallingford. We've got another report coming in of Sandy Hook. It looks like Sandy Hook was hit really badly by these storms. Just got
and we've been getting a lot of reports from down that way.
A lot of damage down there from these storms as they moved on through. So a couple things to track now as these storms move on through is that they're definitely weakening.
Right.
The threat for a tornado is much, much lower.
Absolutely.
But there certainly was a lot of damage that moved through from these storms earlier. And so, yes, we're thrilled to see that the damaging wind threat has diminished, but at the same time, we're also talking about the potential here for some hail with this storm that's moving through Putnam. So I want to go back. We're going to get you through these storms before they're out of here. We're going to track them until the last one gets into Rhode Island. We're going to be on the air covering this for you right here on NBC Connecticut. So I want to start things off by just looking at that storm up through portions of Windham County. And Josh, I'm just looking at a pretty good hail signature showing up now.
Yep.
Believe it or not.
Right near Putnam, right?
Yep, right through Putnam. Yeah, just saw it on dual pole radar. So we'll take a closer look at that. So I do think that there's some hail, probably maybe dime-sized hail with some strong winds as they move through Killingly, Putnam, and Thompson. This one is almost out toward Foster and Gloucester, out into Rhode Island and near Burrville as well. So we're not going to be dealing with this for much longer. But Putnam right now, Thompson, Killingly looking at some hail. I do think we're probably getting some strong winds as well. We'll look off to the south down through New London County, and still a pretty good-looking wind signature here heading just north of Norwich. And I'd be leery of this storm as it moves out of Franklin along 395 up toward Route 97. And Josh, it's your area. I do see a damaging wind threat beginning to head. It looks like it's going to be moving toward Lisbon and Jewett City shortly.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a closer look at that, and we'll go street level. I mean, yeah, this is my area, I guess. But you can see right here down towards Franklin along Route 32 down into the Yantic section of Norwich. That's where we have that damaging wind signature. Let's zoom right in. So Route 32 right near the gas stations, that's where we're possibly seeing winds in excess of 58 miles per hour. And you can see this radar grab right here showing winds moving away from the radar at about 62 miles per hour. Now, how much of that is actually mixing down to the ground? That's the question. But let's zoom out and take a closer look here, and we'll also track this system and give you an idea of where it's headed. It's headed east at about 40 to 45 miles per hour. You can expect it over the next, say, 15 to 20 minutes in Ockham, the Ockham section of Norwich around 5:53, Versailles around 5:54, Lisbon around 5:55, Jewett City and Griswold around 5:57 to 6, Glasgow, which is out near the Glasgow Pond, around 6:03, and Voluntown right around 6:04. But Ryan, this is definitely perked up here in the last, say, 5 minutes or so. And I was just showing the outbounds there, Ryan, and it does look like winds in excess of 60 miles per hour possible.
Yeah, I think so from that storm in New London County. Just got a new warning now for Windham County. So they have warned the storm just as about to move into Rhode Island. This is the line of thunderstorms we're tracking. We are getting reports, and I know we're getting a bunch of reports, and just got a report of trees down in Essex from Chris. He reports trees down there. Paul in Wallingford reports trees down as well. We may have had a tornado on the ground in Newtown near Sandy Hook. We're trying to get some more information on that, but I know there's a lot of damage there. We also have, we looked like earlier, we had what we call a tornado debris signature. It was brief, but it did show up, which indicates to us that there was a tornado that most likely touched down in Oxford. Could have been on the Southbury-Oxford line, but it was somewhere near Southbury and Oxford, and that was earlier this afternoon. And now as this line of thunderstorms heading into Norwich, this is the last line of thunderstorms we're going to need to be concerned about. We've got a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for the 395 corridor. Let's track this storm. Josh mentioned some of the areas that were at risk from the storm, stretching now from East Lyme up toward Franklin, heading out to the east, out toward the Rhode Island border. Norwich, we're talking 549. Jewett City, 552. Preston, damaging winds in your town, 553. Griswold, 554. Ledyard, 556. Voluntown, 559. Econk near the Turkey Farm on Route 49, 6 o'clock. Old Mystic at 6:03, North Stonington at 6:05. So by the time we get to our 6 o'clock news, most of these storms will be out, and then our attention is going to turn to the cleanup and the damage that we had across the state. We had a very significant line of thunderstorms move on through, and it does look like we did have some tornado damage in portions of New Haven County and Fairfield counties as well. So this is the first line of thunderstorms moving out toward Killingly, and I'll take a closer look down through New London County here with some of the damage reports, not damage reports, but some of the wind signatures we're seeing now on live First Alert Doppler radar. I can switch this over to velocity mode, and you can see where you see this light blue shading. So it is a fair distance above the ground up in the clouds, but we're talking about winds here that have the potential to be over 50 or 60 miles per hour along 395. So Griswold and Jewett City back toward Norwich, and this is going to extend down Route 2 into Preston over toward Ledyard, so not too far from Foxwoods. It looks like this line of storms and damaging wind is going to move on through. The tornado threat, I think it's fair to say, is just about zero now. The threat for tornadoes is diminishing. Every minute that goes on that we don't see anything of concern. And Josh, what do you have?
Ryan, just got a report in from Josh up in Woodstock, a good weather observer up there, saying Route 97 in Pomfret, that's where we're seeing that impressive velocity signature, impressive wind signature. Multiple trees down. Route 97 in Pomfret is currently closed. Trees and wires down up there. So we are seeing the radar data, the ground truth confirm what we're seeing on radar. And, you know, that is that there is some impressive wind signatures with this. Hey, let's go back to this system now moving into Lisbon and Baltic, because we're seeing a pretty impressive wind signature with this. We just had the radar update just 2 seconds ago, and I want to show you at Occam, right along Route 97, Old Canterbury Turnpike, right near the Versailles United Methodist Church and Versailles Road near the Occam Playground. That's where we're dealing with some pretty strong wind gusts, winds that could gust in excess of 58 miles per hour. This radar image is showing the winds possible at 63 miles per hour. So generally, winds gusting over 50 miles per hour. And these wind gusts are headed towards Lisbon and Kendall Road, Preston Allen Road, down towards Mell Road, and right along the I-395 corridor. So, you know, if you are out and about in this area, it's probably a good idea to go inside. You know, as this storm system is pushed off to the east and pushed through Connecticut, we've seen so many trees come down. We've seen several reports of these trees coming down and landing on vehicles in just a very dangerous situation. So just because there's no tornado warning with this doesn't mean it can't be just as dangerous as a tornado. And that's exactly what we're seeing. But this system will be heading off to the east, heading into Jewett City and Griswold, eventually into Voluntown over the next, say, 15 to 20 minutes or so. And let's take a wider picture here and show you that we have this line of storms extending from Plainfield down to Norwich, right along Interstate 395 and eventually into 95 down towards Old Lyme. And that's what we're concerned with. We just had another update of the radar, and it does look like, you know, the damaging wind signature right over Occam continues. So, again, we did...
And Josh, I just got an update from Eversource, about 90,000 outages.
Okay, and I know UI is reporting 8,500.
Yeah, so we're pretty close to 1,000 outages, and you can see that damaging wind signature that moved through the state. Danbury, 22% without power. Newtown, 67%. Brookfield, 77% in the dark. Seymour, 75%. Oxford, 63%. Naugatuck, 18%. Bethany 62%. There is definitely a clear swath of damage through western Connecticut that we had that moved through earlier. And Josh, if we can, for the top of the 6 o'clock news, if we can try to go back in time and see if we can take a look at some of those signatures that moved on through.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
So again, here is our severe thunderstorm warning in eastern Connecticut. Western Connecticut and central Connecticut, we're just looking at heavy rain right now. Hartford down to Middletown. The severe weather threat is over basically west of 395. So for most of the state, the severe weather threat is over, but there certainly is a tremendous amount of damage reports that we've had. My sense is that what we had a very large area of strong straight line winds, and embedded in that was a circulation that appears to have spun up near Sandy Hook and then moved through Oxford and Southbury, may have clipped Naugatuck, and then it could have. I wouldn't be surprised if it continued into Bethany and Hamden, especially the northern part of Hamden up around Mount Carmel near the Cheshire line. So I would not be surprised if there was a somewhat long track tornado that developed. Thankfully, we have not gotten any reports of any injuries. We have not gotten any reports of any significant property damage besides trees landing on houses, but we know how these things go, and sometimes it takes a while to get damage reports. So it's really Newtown, Southbury, and also Brookfield and New Fairfield. I can't forget about you because you were the first ones there when the storm moved on through. But there was certainly a swath of significant straight line wind damage and embedded circulations that may have produced a tornado. We're quite confident that a tornado touched down in Oxford. We saw that on live first alert Doppler radar. We certainly saw something that concerned us there, and we had that debris signature, and that would be the second tornado debris signature we've ever seen in Connecticut. The first one was back in Greenwich on July 1st, 2013 for that tornado. It was the one that went on to produce a tornado in Windsor. All right, so let's take a closer look at this, Josh. Josh, pretty good wind signature here developing out toward Norwich, and this is going to continue to move to the east out toward the Rhode Island border. But still, if I was in, let's say, Plainfield, so basically Moosip down into Voluntown, over toward Jewett City and Norwich, we could certainly be getting some very strong wind gusts here. Wind gusts 50 or 60 miles per hour could knock down some trees and power lines. Lisbon. Then once you move farther south out toward Preston and out toward Ledyard and North Stonington. But these signatures here are just a fraction of what we had earlier that moved on through. This is not looking anywhere near as severe as what we had that moved through western Connecticut when it appears that we did have a tornado touchdown. Velocity data showing, especially where you see the light blue up toward Griswold and Lisbon and down toward Norwich and Ledyard along Route 2. That's where you could have some embedded wind gusts over 50 miles per hour. But the good news is the tornado threat has pretty much come to an end across Connecticut. Not concerned about tornadoes anymore, which is great. That is certainly good news. There's that line of thunderstorms moving to the east. Severe thunderstorm warning remains in effect for Windham County and New London County. There's that line stretching from New London and Groton up to the north. Let's take a live look outside if we can from New London, from our sky cam there. Should get a pretty good shot of this as it moves on through. And that's looking up to the north, up toward the Gold Star Memorial Bridge. So we're near Bank Street with our camera, and you can see they're getting a nasty thunderstorm in New London. But from what I can see there, it doesn't look like a puff of wind, which is great to hear. And once you get to the east of there, I just saw a new severe thunderstorm warning was issued for southern Rhode Island. So as these storms move through, they're beginning to weaken, and with the wind coming in off the water, let me look at the latest temperature reading in Groton. Groton was... I got to do my Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion fast enough here. Yeah, you're talking about, you're only in the low 50s now down there, so it's going to be tough to mix some of these stronger winds down to the surface. But this is our last line of thunderstorms about to move out of the state. And here's a closer look here from Groton up north into Voluntown. And we'll time this out. Not much more to time here as it moves on through. Voluntown 557, Old Mystic 558. Groton Long Point 559. Prepare for some pretty good winds. Some boats are in the water probably now, but we are talking about winds that are strong enough to cause some problems down by the water. But it's too late now. Can't go out and get the boat. Just going to have to bear with it and bear with these storms as they move through. I do think the stabilizing influence from Long Island Sound will likely limit any damaging wind potential in southern Connecticut, right along the coast, but still up toward Voluntown. The farther you get inland from Long Island Sound, you could see some gusty winds as we move from let's say 395 near Voluntown, back to the west over toward Jewett City, and then this is going to head into Rhode Island. So we're going to zoom things out for you and give you a closer look here at the entire state. This is the line of thunderstorms to the east. Behind it, we have the trailing rain, which you tend to see. The rain's coming down at a very good clip right now from New Haven up toward Waterbury and Hartford, and there's that line of thunderstorms. Back to the west, we had that possible tornado that moved through portions of Oxford and Southbury and over toward Naugatuck, but now the storms are weakening. They're heading out into Rhode Island right now, and you can see, again, eastern Connecticut looking at the worst of the weather, but thankfully the severe weather threat is coming to an end as these storms move from Connecticut out into Rhode Island. We will have much more right now on NBC Connecticut News at 6.
This is NBC Connecticut News at 6.
All right, we are tracking the storms as they move through the state. This is a look at live First Alert Doppler radar. You're watching NBC Connecticut News at 6. There's the line of thunderstorms through eastern Connecticut, along 395 from Killingly down through Windham over toward Norwich. The storms are moving on through. Back to the west, the story is the damage that these storms have done. We have a report, it looks like we have over 100,000 outages from Eversource United Illuminating, with the worst of the damage in a swath from Danbury and Brookfield and New Fairfield out towards Southbury, over toward Oxford, Newtown as well near Sandy Hook, and that continues out toward Hamden and Wallingford. Within that swath of damage, I do think there was likely a tornado touchdown, and we did see some indications that there was indeed a tornado that touched down earlier near Oxford, and we're going to call up some of the old radar data in just a bit to take a closer look at that. But I want to show you the areas that are getting the storms now. This is eastern Connecticut, where you have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect. If there was damaging wind in the state, the strongest winds would be right now moving into Voluntown. So we're talking about maybe the Sterling down into Voluntown along Route 49 near Econk. Very heavy rain and also lightning and thunder and strong gusty winds as these storms move to the east. But the good news is the severe weather threat is diminishing as these storms move out of Connecticut and head over into Rhode Island. So this is the area of storms we are most concerned about heading through New London County and Windham County. But for most of us, the severe weather threat is coming to an end. We'll take a closer look here in Moosip and Sterling, where the rain is coming down in buckets and you've got strong gusty winds. This is Route 12, Route 49. 395 in Plainfield Center, and also over toward Moosip, Colonial Road, Starkweather Road. Some damaging winds possible around Robin Road and Millbrook Road. The winds could really pick up as these storms move in. And these are the kind of storms where they're sort of hit or miss with the strong gusty winds. You could have one neighborhood that gets clobbered where 5, 6, 7, 8 trees come down in one neighborhood, and then on the other side of the neighborhood, there's not much. So it just depends on, just luck has a lot to do with it and which neighborhoods get hit the strongest. And there's the storms that are moving on to the east as they head out toward Rhode Island. So we're going to widen things out and show you the loop of the whole state and watch these storms as they have moved from central Connecticut out toward Rhode Island. And you can see there's that line of thunderstorms. The storms are weakening, which is good news, though still a strong wind threat along the 395 corridor, and the severe weather threat is going to diminish. We've gotten a number of reports and damage and pictures and videos that have come in, and with more on some of the damage we've seen so far and a look at where the storms are now, let's send things over to meteorologist Josh Singranelli. Josh.
And Ryan, just looking at some of the information right along the I-395 corridor here, and we are seeing this last batch of storms now move into far eastern Connecticut, right along the Rhode Island border. So we'll take a closer look here, and behind it, there's really not much, which is good news. I mean, there's a lot of rain in place, and that's about it. The damaging wind threat now into eastern Connecticut, and for the rest of the state, that damaging wind threat is coming to an end. So there is some improvement in sight, but behind it, a lot of damage, especially through Southbury up through Oxford, right near the Oxford, Waterbury-Oxford Airport. Seeing a lot of damage. Have some reports out near Sandy Hook of some damage coming in.
Hey, Josh, we just got Caitlin McGrath is standing by, and Caitlin says she has stumbled across some damage. If we can get Caitlin shot up. So we've had our team of meteorologists and our crews out in the field. And Caitlin, what are you looking at, and where are you? Go.
Hey there, guys. We are in Oxford, and I want you to look right here. This is the camera from the front of our live truck, and you can see this enormous tree that has come down on a power line. Obviously, traffic is turning around. It is not getting through here. We, again, are in Oxford. Let me zoom in on my map here, and I'll show you exactly where we are. And we're actually on our way to a damage report. This is on Chestnut Tree Hill Road. It's at the intersection of Route 42. And again, you can see traffic is turning around. An extremely large tree has fallen on the power line there. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to go any further. We do have to turn around here, but I wanted to give you this look. Again, we just drove up on this right now, again, at the corner of Route 42 and Chestnut Tree Hill Road. A lot of damage in the area. We're going to get to a safe spot and bring you the very latest from Oxford, where we do believe a tornado may have touched down. We will have the latest coming up in just a bit, but for now, we want to send things back to you.
All right, Caitlin, thank you very much. Live in Oxford for us, and it looked like I'm going to go back here if we can. Josh, can you if you could actually throw up Max C, and we could do it manually here. If you just shut off Magic Track.
Sure.
So
you want to pull up the old data?
Yeah, if we can.
Sure.
So I want to show you the storms that they moved through. So the damaging wind threat now has moved to the east, out toward Rhode Island, and so the severe weather threat here locally certainly is coming down. But what we can do is we can actually go back, and I want to show you what the storm looked like. So we can go in velocity mode and show the storm as it moved into Fairfield County, and it really illustrates how strong this storm was as it moved in earlier into portions of Fairfield County. So if we can go back in time, we can say that. So there you go. So that's bringing the radar back over towards Southbury.
And Ryan, this is at 2:04. I'm sorry, not 2:04, 4:55 p.m.
So yeah, just before 5. So we had a report. So we have a tremendous amount of tree damage in New Milford, back into Brookfield and New Fairfield, and then the storm moved into Southbury, and this is what it looked like. So this is not now, this was earlier, this was right around 5 o'clock, and we were certainly seeing some rotation, and it looks like as the storm moved to the east, so
there you go.
There we go. Yeah, is that storm relative? Is that what was that?
No, we were just looking at wrong color.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so here you can see, so you've got these very strong winds. That's the radar sampling winds that were up to, in some cases, close to 100 miles an hour, and you had some rotation here. The red is winds that are blowing away. Blue is winds that are blowing toward the radar site. So there's that rotation. So it's possible, a couple of things are possible. One is that we had some very strong straight line wind damage in Sandy Hook in Newtown with the winds coming down the Housatonic River Valley. That wouldn't surprise me. But then as the storm moved to the east, it looked like as it moved into the Housatonic River around 5 o'clock and across the river, the rotation tightened up. So let's advance another couple frames here, and we can watch as the storm and the possible tornado. There you go. Route 67, Route 188 in Southbury. I'm noticing this right here. That was certainly a concerning signature on live first alert Doppler radar, and it looks like this is when we probably had a tornado that touched down. So this is Oxford, and winds were just off the charts coming up on live first alert Doppler radar. So this was the area that it looks like we had a tornado that touched down earlier. So this was at what time was this, Josh?
That radar grab right there was at 4:58 p.m.
Okay, so we're still just before 5 o'clock, and this was the storm. So this is 67 and 188. So this is right near Southford Falls State Park, and this is where we likely have the tornado. So if we can advance it one more frame, if we can go one more, so this is now right around 5 o'clock, you still have that rotation, and if we can switch over to correlation coefficient,
yep.
Josh, we can see it looks like right around 5 o'clock, the radar was picking up, there we go. If we can go back one, too, sort of watch that come in. This is where we likely had tornado debris signature. So what right there.
Whoops, there it is.
So there it is. So what the radar was picking up here right around 5 o'clock was pieces of trees, pieces of twigs and branches and leaves that were being sucked up into the storm. The storm was spinning around, and that's where it looks like we had a possible tornado, and actually radar confirmed the presence of a tornado that touched down in Southbury and moved into Oxford. One of the areas that was hit on the other side of the river was Newtown. That's where NBC Connecticut's Leslie Mays is standing by with more. Leslie, what's the damage look like out there?
Ryan, all I can say is this is really an area that you want to avoid if you are here in the Newtown area. We are right here at Berkshire Road, Route 34, and Chestnut Hill Road, where a tree has come down onto a number of wires. And unfortunately, since my photographer and I have been here in the last few minutes, we have seen a number of cars drive right over these wires. We do know that here in the Newtown area, apparently Eversource reporting about 67,000 customers that are without service. But I want you to see what we just saw a moment ago, which was a truck that came through, rode over those wires and actually pulled that tree back and pulled some of the wires down, trying to get by. Of course, this is what we tell you in every storm you should never do, is drive over live wires. And as you see here, we are seeing this happen again and again. Of course, there have been a number of reports of damage in this area, but this is an area that you want to try to stay away from if you can. Behind our truck, we are inside of our news van because we didn't feel it was safe to be out on the street. But behind our truck, there is a lengthy line of cars that are backed up trying to get down this road. Again, Chestnut Hill Road and Berkshire Road, Route 34. But again, this area, a tree down. In this area, and probably a place that you should try to avoid if you can. Again, this is in Newtown, Route 34, Berkshire Road and Chestnut Hill Road. A down tree, a number of down wires, and a significant traffic backup that is behind us right now. That's the latest here in Newtown. I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Leslie, thank you very much. And Josh, if you could here on Max C, if you could switch this back over. So we're looking at the damage from Newtown on the right, and this is what the radar looked like. We can go back over to velocity mode. I want to show our viewers what the storm looked like. So we made it through Southbury and heading into Oxford. Radar confirmed a tornado touchdown near, I believe, let me just get the name of this. I just don't want to mess this up. Southford Falls State Park. That's where we had that tornado that touched down. Let's send things back over if we can. So we've got satellite and radar. Is this, what source are we here on?
Oh, we're going back over to Max C.
Okay, so this is Max C. So here are the storms that we've got moving into Rhode Island. These are the storms moving away. This is a live look at live first alert Doppler radar. And earlier, our swath of damage that's most concerning coming out of Newtown. This is where Leslie is. And then where Caitlin was in Oxford, that's where we had some damage. And it does look like we did have a tornado that touched down on the Southbury-Oxford line. Radar was able to confirm that for us, and we'll go back and we'll watch that one more time. There is the storm. It's damaging winds heading into Newtown here in Sandy Hook. Then as the storm moved to the east, out into Southbury, that's when things picked up. And this is where you had your possible tornado on the Southbury-Oxford line. There's Route 188, Route 67. Our radar picked up. We had debris that was lofted, pieces of trees, hopefully not houses. We don't know how substantial the damage is there, but we're hoping that the damage was just restricted to trees. That would be great news. And there is where we likely had the tornado that touched down. Now, the storm continued to the east, and we do have a lot of damage reports coming out of Oxford and Bethany as the storm moved to the east. So there's that possible rotation, damaging winds for sure. Southford near the state park there. This is where you have a very, very serious wind signature from earlier, and this was all around 5 o'clock as the storm moved to the east. With more on the damage in Oxford, let's send things over to meteorologist Caitlin McGrath. She was chasing the storms. She was up with us in Winstead on the first tornado warning of the day, and now she's found her way south into Oxford. Caitlin, what are you seeing?
Hey there, Ryan, that's right. And we have been getting in a lot of damage reports. We're trying to get to them right now, but this is what we're running into. I'm going to flip our camera around here, and you can see a lot of roads are just completely blocked here in Oxford. Again, we just showed you just a few blocks to our north, that tree that fell on a power line completely blocking the road. This is also in Oxford. This is Sycamore Lane in between Oakwood Drive and Hickory Lane. Unpassable. You can see the trash can in the middle of the road. There is a lot of debris here in Oxford. And as Ryan mentioned, as we've been talking about, this is where we did have a radar indicated tornado. Again, we have not had confirmation of that, but a lot of pieces really coming together to confirm those damaging straight line winds and a potential tornado as well. We're going to continue to keep trying to get around and show you some of this damage. But again, a lot of the streets here in Oxford are completely blocked off. We'll continue to bring the latest as we get it in. But for now, I'm going to send things back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you very much, Caitlin McGrath, live in Oxford for us, looking at some of the damage. And it's tough for us to get to some of the areas that were hit the hardest because there's so many trees down in Oxford right now and also in Southbury. So we'll track this a little bit farther. If we keep going now to the east, you can see as the storm moved, we'll take it over to Hamden, I guess, Josh. We'll keep it heading out. The possible tornado, it looks like the tornado probably lifted for a period of time as it moved into Beacon Falls, but this is a very serious wind signature that moved through. We had a couple issues. The winds were so powerful, the radar sort of struggled to keep up with it. And then as we head out to the east, check this out. This is where you had, this is Bethany, this is Prospect, that's 69, and this is Route 10 between Hampden and Cheshire. And there certainly was an indication here that you may have had a tornado continuing. Then as it moved across Route 10, it likely weakened, but there still were a number of reports of damage that came in from the storm as it moved on through. Let's take a look from video from Cheshire as these storms approached, and you can see that is a giant tree that was uprooted and some big damage in that house there. That's an ugly shot there. Wow. Hopefully everyone's okay. But you can see as the storm moved through, it looked like we went from a tornado threat through portions of Newtown and Southbury, and now we're looking at what happened in the wake of that storm with that damage in Cheshire and some pretty serious damage there. And as the storms moved off to the east, we're still looking at, this is a live look at live first alert Doppler radar. The storms now are out into Rhode Island. So the severe weather threat here just about over in Connecticut. Actually, we can say the severe weather threat is over.
Yeah, it's over, Ryan. And, we were tracking those storms in southeastern Connecticut, now getting numerous reports of trees and wires down in that area as well. So Lisbon, Baltic, Jewett City all have reports of trees and wires down in their area. Kinsman Hill Road in Lisbon, and also some reports from Baltic of some trees and wires down. But as Ryan said, the storms have lifted off to the east. You can see that line of storms moving across Connecticut, an impressive line of storms now into Rhode Island. So the severe weather threat in Connecticut is over. So that is certainly some good news, but it has left behind a lot of damage throughout the state, especially down in Fairfield County and in New Haven County and elsewhere in the state. And Ryan, we were looking at some of those velocity data, the wind data, and I mean, you've been doing this for a while. Have you ever seen numbers that high before?
No. I mean that maxed out the scale so much with the velocity data that the radar was unable to handle what it was seeing. That's how strong the winds were. So it took us a couple frames to get everything back into sync. But we watched that come in from New York, and when we saw that, I mean, it just sort of it came upon us like, whoa, this is bad news, and it was pretty frightening what we were looking at coming into Fairfield County, New Haven County, and we're hoping that the damage is mainly superficial. We can deal with damage to trees. We can get trees cut up and hauled away, but it's the damage to houses that you're obviously more concerned about. And at least right now, have not heard of anything like that, but we've got a ton of power outages out here. Eversource now with 116,000 outages, United Illuminating with 9,100. So it's 125,000 outages. That's about as high as you can get for severe weather. I think back to the big windstorm we had that moved through Wallingford and North Haven a couple of years ago, and that got us to about 100,000 outages. Yeah. So those are some impressive numbers. Newtown, Danbury, Seymour, some of the hardest hit there,
the
Josh.
problem with this is there's probably a lot of different areas that have a lot of breakpoints because the wind was just so massive over the entire area. But hey, we have some impressive video in, I believe this is from Summers, if we can show some of this video, and you can see the trees just right across the building there. This tree completely uprooted. What was that road again? Grist Mill Terrace in Summers, and you can see just numerous trees down, and this is just an indication of how strong these winds were. We weren't talking about just one gust to 50 or 60 miles per hour. We were talking about a wide swath of area, a wide swath of wind gusts in excess of 60 miles per hour. This is from Wallingford, and you can see this person's driveway just completely littered with trees down. This is from South Main Street in Wallingford, and you can see trees down, power lines down, and this is really the site throughout much of Connecticut. I mean, there was really not one area in Connecticut that didn't get impacted by this storm. This was a line of storms that moved across the entire state and took down trees, took down power lines, and as Ryan mentioned, you said over 100,000 without power?
Yeah, we're up to 125,000 customers. Just got some pictures coming in from Quinnipiac, which I believe is North Haven, but it could be Hampden. So it's either near Quinnipiac University or actually, it looks like Cheshire, actually. So anyway, a bunch of pictures of trees that are just snapped in half. Just got a report from Michelle in New Milford, from New Milford High School, a picture here of some shingles that have been blown off the roof there. which seems to be, that's telling you you've got some really, really nasty winds that moved through. So New Milford High School as that storm moved in. Josh, if we could throw up like a 2-hour loop here and watch these storms come in, we're gonna track these storms. So the severe weather threat is over. So we're transitioning now from what will happen with the thunderstorms as we were tracking them earlier now to what did happen, and there was a lot of damage. The worst of it, obviously, out toward the Danbury area, and even in the Hamden area, we're getting a lot of reports of damage in Hamden, damage in Cheshire, damage in North Haven, and some of that damage looks quite significant. Hamden Cheshire line, that's where that Quinnipiac picture was from. And so that was exactly the area on Route 10 we were tracking on live First Alert Doppler radar with that damage as it moved through. So we've got a couple things. It looks like we had sort of a widespread windstorm, damaging windstorm with straight line winds, and then embedded in that a tornado touchdown. So for sure near Oxford. Across the rest of the state, it remains a bit up in the air. So Oxford and Southbury had a tornado earlier. Radar confirmed the presence of that tornado. But in the remainder of southern Connecticut, it looks like there was a fairly long duration windstorm that developed that produced wind gusts 50, 60, 70, 80 miles per hour. Once you start talking about damage to the roof at New Milford High School, the picture did not look that significant. I mean, the whole roof didn't come off. It looks like some shingles were blown about there, but some damage nonetheless. You're talking about winds that are approaching hurricane force as that storm moved through. Faith, one of our weather watchers in New Milford, reports a lot of damage there. Just got a report here in Bethel. So many roads blocked by downed trees and power lines in Bristol and Bethel. From that right there, let's take a look. Do we have video from Monroe? This is trees down on power lines there, and obviously, don't try to get through anything like that. Some of these wires are still live. And Eversource has their work cut out for them, as does United Illuminating, to get the lights back on. So in some towns, it's going to be a pretty long duration event. This is New Fairfield. Look at that. That is the storm as it moved through earlier, as the trees are knocked down. That is some really nasty winds, and that is a incredible storm there. As that storm moved into New Fairfield, crossed the New York border. There's the tree coming down right there.
And that may very well have been a tornado. I mean,
could have been.
See if that's confirmed tomorrow.
And what we'll see, I mean, if you just look at that, I mean, you got the winds all in one direction. So, I mean, that could have just been, some straight line winds. And then as that storm hit the valley on the Housatonic River, that may have been what spun it up into a tornado. But as we were saying earlier, as we go back to the radar loop, it doesn't matter what causes the damage, if it's straight line winds or a tornado. It's still damage. It's still taking down trees. It's taking down power lines. And I imagine there are some hard to get to places in Southbury and Oxford where the damage right now is quite significant, because we were able to see on radar that tornado debris that was taken from the tops of a tree or the top of a house was sucked up into the storm and caused some damage. Josh, if we can loop this one more time, let's take a close. Oh, I guess I could do it.
I'll do it.
Thank you. So you can see as the storm moved on through, it was that southern half, Danbury, over toward New Haven County, Middlesex County, and New London County, where the worst of the damage was. And what we were looking at on radar that moved through Fairfield and New Haven counties earlier was obviously quite severe and quite significant from these thunderstorms. The good news is tornado watch has been canceled. The severe thunderstorm warnings have been canceled as well. So all of this is good news for us. The severe weather threat is over here, which is great. Hey, let's take a look at some video we had that came in earlier. And you can see, is this Middlebury, Sam? This is 84 in Middlebury. And you can see you got a tree snapped, and we have seen pictures of a few of these. We saw one tree down on the Wilbur Cross. I saw that on Twitter in Wallingford. So there certainly was damage from these storms, and that is snarling traffic. 84 in Middlebury is a mess on a sunny day. Never mind that on a day where you have a tornado passing 10 miles to the south of Middlebury. So that's one of the areas that got hit pretty hard. So as we go back to live First Alert Doppler radar again, the storms are over. We can relax. We can take in a deep breath. And we can track these storms as they move away. And behind it, we've got a lot of cleanup to do across Connecticut, a lot of damage reports coming in. And we love our viewers if it's safe to do so. Only if it's safe, send us your pictures, send us your video. You can use the hashtag NBCCT. Of course, you can also email them, share it at NBCConnecticut.com.
And Ryan, I'm going to have some great photos here coming up.
Okay, sounds good, Josh. So Josh is working on that, and we'll get some more. It's sort of lost in the shuffle with all the damaging wind was what happened to the north earlier this afternoon, moving through Heartland and Granby, where we had hail that was large enough, hail 2 inches in diameter, nearly tennis ball size, which was enough to smash windshields. So, there was every type of storm threat, from tornadoes to damaging winds to hail. We told you a couple days ago that this one meant business, and boy, did it. We were certainly very concerned, and this lived up to expectations. Let's take a look at this video. This one was the video that came in earlier of the hail in Granby, I believe. And you can see, thanks to Christian for sending that in, that is some amazing hail, whipped with the wind as well. And some of that hail was big enough. You have to start to get hail over golf ball sized to start smashing windshields. And it looks like we did it. We didn't get quite to baseball-sized hail like they did out in New York State. The record in Connecticut, oh, there's another video, too. You can see the hail coming down in Granby. The record, incidentally, for Connecticut was set back in the June 1995 hailstorm of baseball-sized hail in Ellington and Lyme. So thankfully we didn't get there, but this kind of hail whipped by the wind was big enough to smash windshields, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's some broken windows as well. You may want to head up to the attic or the second floor and take a look at that. And look at the hailstones bouncing there. That's some big hail in Falls Village that Susan sent in. Thank you so much for that video. That is some impressive hail as well, bigger than golf balls in parts of northern Connecticut. So as we expected we would see, we had the storm threat transition from initially it was a hail threat when you had these big storms that were sort of all lined up separately, and then that hail threat transitioned into a damaging wind threat, which is what we had through this afternoon, and that tornado that touched down near Oxford and Southbury. Let's send things over to meteorologist Josh Signorelli. We've got some great pictures and video that have come in, and Josh, if we can throw up the tag board full, we can take a look at those. And Josh, what do you have?
Well, Ryan, a lot of photos coming in, and a lot of these photos are from the Wallingford, New Milford area, even out towards areas like Essex. Let's start with this one, because this one just came in. Michelle out in New Milford. This is an image of the New Milford High School, and look at the roof up there, up towards the top. This is where we are seeing what is some evidence of some very strong wind damage, whether that was a tornado or some straight line winds. That's to be determined. Also, Chris sent in this photo. He says so many trees, so many roads blocked by downed trees and power lines in Bethel. Usually takes about 10 minutes to get home, but today it took him about 40 minutes to get home. And one thing I do want to mention that is if you are out and about and you come across a downed tree, there might be a power line underneath, and it's pretty tough to see. So just make sure just to turn around. Don't go around it, because you don't want to run into a live power line. That's never a good thing to do. This photo was sent in by Garrett. Golf ball sized hail out in Granby. And look at his window back here. It's damaged back there, so some pretty impressive stuff. Woodbury, Connecticut. You can see numerous trees down in the Woodbury area. Thank you, Ryan, for that photo. And Debbie sent in this. This was sent in about 2 hours ago, and she said a car was crushed in New Milford. Everything is closed, and you can see this tree right over the car there in the New Milford area. We'll get to a few more photos here. This was sent in just about 15 minutes ago. This is from Franklin along Route 32, and you can see a transformer fire there as a result of the storm. You can see the transformer just blowing up. I actually didn't even watch this entire video, but there you go. It's on fire, and then it just completely blows up, and they say, this is why there's probably no power along Route 32. It's a pretty heavily traveled area along in eastern Connecticut. Lynn sent in this. She said 5 trees down in my backyard in Wallingford, and we also have this in from Isabel Bray. This is our backyard in Bethel, and you can see just numerous trees down in the Bethel area. And we'll leave you with this final photo from Sophia. She says Tolles Road in Wallingford. Mom drove through the tornado.
Look at that.
It probably wasn't a tornado, Ryan, but definitely some very, very strong straight line winds with this. It could have been a tornado.
Yeah, it sure could have been. I mean, we know that radar confirmed for us a tornado earlier for the storm on the Southbury-Oxford line, but what happened in Wallingford and North Haven and Durham, was it a tornado or was it straight line winds? And we just don't know yet. It could have been either. And that was the same area that was hit by those nasty storms a couple years ago. Caitlin McGrath live in Oxford with some of the damage she's seeing there. Caitlin, what do you have?
Hey there, guys. Right now we're at the corner of South Main Street and Bethany Road. I'm going to flip the camera over here and show you what we have. A tree that has snapped over a building. It took down a power line as well. Again, this is right on the corner of South Main Street and Bethany Road. We also got a report of a tree down on a car in the area. We have not yet found that, but we wanted to bring you the latest image we have here, again, of a tree that has snapped over a building. It looks like it's a construction warehouse. Unclear of what exactly the building is. It does not look like it suffered severe damage, but again, you can see that tree that did snap over the roof and again is now leaning up over that building. We're still in, we're in Beacon Falls actually, so we are just to the east of Oxford where we do have that tornado. So this is in Beacon Falls. We're going to continue to monitor the area and see what kind of damage we're dealing with. But on the way here, it was a lot of what we showed you earlier. Branches blocking down roads, taking down tree lines, a lot of debris here in the area. So we'll keep an eye out and bring you what we find in this area. But for now, we'll send things back to you.
All right, Caitlin, thank you very much. And so just to sort of summarize what we're dealing with now, it looks like we did have a tornado. Radar confirmed for us with a tornado debris signature that you heard first here on NBC Connecticut, a tornado near Southford, which is on the Southbury-Oxford line. But embedded within that was embedded within a huge swath of wind damage from these storms as they moved out of Fairfield County and into Litchfield and New Haven County. So we know there is a significant amount of damage in New Fairfield, in Brookfield, in New Milford, in Southbury, in Middlebury, in Oxford, in Hamden and Cheshire and Wallingford and North Haven. A swath of significant and substantial wind damage existed. I think within that band there were likely some tornadoes. In fact, I'm very confident that a tornado touched down on the Southbury-Oxford line, and that was sort of embedded within a band of extremely damaging winds. In some areas, like we saw in New Milford with roof damage there on New Milford High School, some of the winds were likely over, let's say, 70 or 80 miles per hour. We have about 130,000 utility customers without power in Connecticut. Is going to be a long cleanup. We have all of our crews scattered across the state, and we will be working to give you the very latest. We will have live team coverage, of course, tonight on NBC Connecticut News at 11, and we will be back with damage reports as soon as we get them right here on NBC Connecticut. Now we'll send you to NBC Nightly News with Lester Holtz.